From the moment my son was born, he became the center of my world. I raised him alone after his father passed away suddenly when our son was only 2 years old. Life wasn't easy, but I worked hard every day to make sure he had everything he needed. I went without many things so he could have school books, new clothes, and warm meals. Every time he smiled, I felt that all my struggles were worth it. He was not just my child. He was my hope, my pride, and my best friend. When he grew older, he remained kind and respectful. He studied well, got a good job, and became a strong, decent man. I always knew he would make someone a wonderful husband one day. So when he told me he had met someone special and that he wanted to marry her, my heart filled with happiness. I was ready to welcome her with open arms. I dreamed of the day they would exchange vows and I'd be sitting proudly in the front row, watching my son start a new life. I offered to help with the wedding. I gave money, helped choose decorations, and even offered my jewelry if she wanted to wear it. She said very little, but I thought maybe she was shy. I didn't want to make things awkward, so I smiled and kept my distance, thinking things would be better with time. I believed that when the big day came, I would feel the love and respect I had earned all these years, not just from my son, but also from the woman who would soon become part of our family. But something didn't feel right. As the wedding day came closer, small things started to bother me. The bride hardly spoke to me. When I tried to ask her about the wedding plans, flowers, music, food, she would say, "It's already handled," and walk away. I thought maybe she was just stressed. Weddings can be overwhelming. I didn't want to be a burden. So I stayed silent and trusted she would warm up to me in time. I noticed that her family didn't really talk to me either. They were polite but cold. When I visited to drop off a gift, they barely invited me inside. I told myself not to overthink. Not every family is the same, I thought. Maybe they were just different from us. Maybe they were more private. Still, it hurt. I was giving so much, emotionally, financially, and yet I felt like a stranger. I tried to stay positive for my son's sake. One night, I called my son to ask what role I would have in the ceremony. He sounded distracted and said, "You'll be there, Mom. Don't worry about it." That didn't answer my question. Would I walk in with him, sit near the front, be part of the photos? He didn't say. I hung up feeling uneasy. I looked at the beautiful dress I had bought, the necklace I had saved for years to wear on this special day. I had imagined this moment for so long, dancing with my son, wiping tears of joy, taking proud photos with him and his bride. But deep inside, a small voice whispered something was wrong. I tried to ignore it. Maybe it was just wedding stress. Maybe everything would be perfect on the day. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I didn't belong. The morning of the wedding, I woke up early. I was nervous, but also excited. This was the day I had been waiting for since my son was a little boy. I carefully put on my dress, a deep blue gown that I had chosen weeks ago. I wore the necklace my husband gave me on our wedding day, something I had held onto for years. My hands shook as I fastened the clasp, remembering the love we once shared, and wishing he could be here to see his son get married. I arrived at the venue early. The decorations were beautiful. Everything looked perfect. White flowers everywhere, soft music playing, guests beginning to arrive in fancy clothes. I stood, for a moment, taking it all in, imagining how proud my husband would be of our boy. But something strange happened the moment I walked in. No one greeted me. A few of the bride's relatives nodded but quickly looked away. I looked around for my son, but he was nowhere in sight. I tried calling him, but there was no answer. A young woman from the event staff walked up to me and said, "You must be the groom's mother. Come this way." I smiled, thinking she would take me to the front rows. Instead, she led me through a hallway and opened a small side door. "Here's your seat," she said kindly. I stepped inside and froze. It wasn't the wedding hall. It was the kitchen. There were a few metal chairs and a small screen where I could see the ceremony on video. The smell of food was strong. Chefs moved around, shouting orders. I blinked, confused. Surely there had been a mistake. Surely this wasn't where I was supposed to sit. I stood there, frozen, as the staff member smiled politely and closed the door behind her. I looked around the kitchen. It was clean but loud, full of clattering pots, moving chefs, and the scent of spices. In the corner, a small chair sat next to a screen where the wedding was being streamed live. My name wasn't on it. There was no sign or special decoration, no reserved place, no welcome. I sat down slowly, my heart pounding. My hands trembled in my lap as I listened to the noise outside, the guests laughing, the music playing. I was just a wall away from the celebration, yet I felt miles apart. I waited, hoping someone would realize there had been a mistake. Maybe my son didn't know where I was. Maybe someone would come get me and walk me to my real seat. I told myself over and over, this can't be it. This can't be where I'm meant to sit. Minutes passed. Then, from the small screen, I saw it. The wedding began. My son walked down the aisle. My heart jumped. He looked handsome, nervous, but happy. I waited for the camera to pan to the guests, hoping to see myself among them. I wasn't there. The front rows were filled with the bride's family. Her mother wore a grand outfit, sitting proudly in the front. I saw my son turn and smile at her. My eyes filled with tears. I blinked them away, not wanting to cry in the kitchen. I didn't want to ruin his day. I stayed quiet. I didn't call him. I didn't walk out. I didn't make a scene. I simply watched, my heart cracking, wondering how it came to this. Why was I in the kitchen? I sat quietly, watching the screen. The bride walked in, glowing in white, holding a bouquet of roses. The music played softly, and the guests stood up to welcome her. My son's eyes lit up when he saw her, and they exchanged a look full of love. I couldn't help but smile through my tears. He looked happy. That was all I ever wanted. For him, to be happy. But I also couldn't understand why I wasn't part of that joy. With each moment, the pain in my chest grew heavier. Every mother dreams of her child's wedding. I had pictured sitting close, holding his hand before he said his. Vows, whispering a blessing, taking pictures, sharing a dance. Instead, I was in a room behind the scenes, like someone who didn't matter. No one came to check on me. No one even asked if I had eaten. I could hear the laughter, the applause, and the clinking of glasses, but none of it was for me. I wanted to believe there was a reason for this. Maybe the bride had made a mistake. Maybe someone had misunderstood the seating plan. But deep inside, I knew the truth. This was no accident. I had been placed here on purpose. Still, I said nothing. I didn't call my son. I didn't walk out of the venue. I didn't cause drama. Instead, I folded my hands in my lap, smiled sadly at the screen, and whispered a prayer for my son's future. Even in this pain, I didn't want to bring shame to him on his special day. I had given him everything I could in life. I just hadn't known it would end with me sitting beside boiling pots and cutting boards. As I sat alone in that kitchen, memories started flooding my mind. I remembered the nights I stayed awake by his bedside when he had a fever. I remembered working double shifts to pay for his school trip when he didn't want to be the only one left behind. I remembered sewing his torn clothes by hand, packing his favorite lunch, and cheering him on. At every school event, I had never missed a moment. I had always been there, his #1 fan, his safe place. And now, when it was his biggest day, I wasn't even in the room. The cooks around me moved with purpose, shouting orders, stirring large pots, chopping vegetables. No one looked at me. No one asked who I was or why I was there. I was invisible. I glanced at the small screen again and saw the bride's mother standing proudly beside the couple as they took photos. My heart sank further. That was supposed to be me, too. Was I not good enough? Had I done something wrong? I searched my heart for answers, but all I could find were the thousands of times I had said yes, the countless times I had put my son's happiness before my own. And still, here I was, sitting alone. My phone buzzed in my bag. A message from my cousin. "Where are you? I don't see you in the crowd." I stared at the screen for a moment, then turned the phone off. I didn't want to explain. I didn't want to talk. The shame was too deep, the pain too raw. It wasn't about the chair. It wasn't about the kitchen. It was about being pushed, aside by the one person I loved the most. The wedding went on. On the little screen, I watched the couple exchange rings. People clapped and cheered. The bride kissed my son, and they smiled as confetti flew in the air. I could hear the celebration echo through the walls. People were standing, hugging, taking photos. The music got louder, the laughter sharper. But in the kitchen, there was only silence around me. Not a single person noticed my quiet heartbreak. I sat still, trying to hold myself together. Every minute felt like an hour. I kept thinking my son would look for me, that he would wonder where I was, that he would send someone to check. But no one came. Not during the vows, not during the photos, not even during the meal. I knew I had been forgotten, or worse, deliberately hidden. That was the moment something inside me changed. I didn't feel sad anymore. I felt calm. Cold, but calm. I had spent my whole life giving without asking for anything back. I had believed that love and sacrifice would earn me a place of respect. But now, watching my son laugh with people who barely knew him while I sat by the ovens like a stranger, I understood a painful truth. I was not valued. Not by the bride, not by her family, and perhaps not even by my own son. I had planned many things for their future. I had promised them a gift for their honeymoon. I had offered to help with the down payment for their house. I had even set aside savings to surprise them with something special. But now, all those promises felt heavy in my heart. I smiled quietly. To myself, maybe I couldn't control where I sat at the wedding, but I could decide what came next.